Over the last few episodes, we have traversed the depths of our mind, whether that be traversing into how we can quieten the chatter of our mind, or navigating our relationships, the conflict, the trust, the communication that exists there. And so today's episode will serve as a turning point where we transition from the mind to the buddhi. Now, the buddhi may or may not be a familiar term, and that's totally okay. Through this episode, we will start to form a definition of the buddhi for each of us on this journey of tuning into that voice of silence. And so we are so honored and blessed to be joined by our guest speaker. I can not think of anybody who would be better positioned to guide us through this journey, this next 75 minutes. And so it is my absolute honor to introduce Brother Sunder Iyer, who is a distinguished alum of the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. He holds a PhD in banking and finance and an MD in alternative medicine. A member of the very first batch of students in 1979, he was personally chosen by Bhagawan for various responsibilities, including serving as his personal attendant for several years. Today, along with his wife Maya, he has dedicated his life to sharing the transformative power of yoga and spiritual guidance with people all over the world. Brother Sunder, thank you so much for joining us in this episode.
Thank you. Thank you, Sonali. It's an honor and a pleasure always to not only speak about Swami, but especially to spend time with young adults. So thank you for having me on.
Perfect. I realize now that I forgot to introduce myself, but my name is Sonali, and I'm a Region 2 YA, and I'm joined here, co-hosts, my two co-hosts are my two absolute best friends, well, Cypriya definitely, and Harish on the way. And very excited to be on this journey together for this next 75 minutes. So I'll actually transition it over to Cypriya for this next portion.
Thank you, Sonali, for the introduction. Thank you, Harish, for all the tech support in the background. We really appreciate your help with all of this. And thank you, Brother Sunder, for joining us. And thank you all for being here as we kind of go through this process together. So we're actually going to start off with some interactive exercises. And the reason we want to do that is we really want to gather together in this space. Sometimes it can be hard to create a collective space virtually, but we're going to do our best to make sure that we're all kind of on the same page together. And the reason we're starting with these interactive exercises, it's really to get a better understanding of some of these words that Sonali mentioned that's kind of been on the flyer and the WhatsApp messages, such as mind and buddhi, and really getting on the same page. The responses that we'll be gathering will be anonymous. And so I really want to emphasize that because we're not looking for a right answer. We're really just trying to figure out where we're all starting and where we can kind of go from there. And so we'll have 3 questions, and after each question, we'll have Brother Sunder share his reflections, kind of share his thoughts on the question, and we'll kind of go in order. So Harish is going to pull up a Poll Everywhere link that everyone can you can use the QR code, you can plug in onto the website if you prefer. If possible, if a few people can just give me a thumbs up so I know that it's working and you're able to log in, that'd be great.
And it's working for me.
Awesome. Perfect. So we can go to the next slide. So the first question we're asking people to respond to, and this is in a word or a short phrase. We're going to ideally create a word cloud. So in a word or a short phrase, what does mind mean to you? And we'll give you about 45 seconds to a minute to respond to this. So we're seeing thoughts coming up, confusion, emotion, memory, maybe a bundle of thoughts, senses, monkey mind. desires. Okay. Thank you all for adding your responses. And Brother Sundar, I'm going to pass the question on to you of like kind of helping us discuss what does the mind mean?
Thank you. The words that I see, I think the enlightened audience has already answered the question. And I would like to begin it with a very simple quote that Swami said. And it often kept me thinking and it still keeps me on, because that's a beautiful way to understand a mind, especially, is it simply is a bundle of thoughts. It's a series of thoughts that come together and appears to exist. Like we have a virtual cloud, right? What a virtual cloud today is, there is no real cloud sitting out there. It's just a collection of your data that appears to you as something solid, as if there is a separate existence of its own, but it's just a bundle of thoughts. But Swami would often ask us, what happens at night when you sleep, fast asleep? There is no thought, and therefore where is the mind? He would ask, and he would pull out his handkerchief, of course, and pull out one by one the thread, and he says, what if I pull out the thread one by one? What will happen to the cloth? Would it still exist? And obviously the answer is no. So to me, the mind is simply a bundle of thoughts. And if I want to control my mind, I just go back to my thoughts and work from there. As long as my thoughts are aligned with my core beliefs, then I don't have to worry about the quote-unquote mind, because that really doesn't exist on its own, though it appears like that. But it's simply any thought that I'm constantly entertaining. Those are the thoughts that become my mind.
Thank you for that response and for the definition. I love that the mind becomes what you kind of fuel into it, what you're putting into it. So we can go to the next slide, Harish, which is, in a word or a short phrase, what does buddhi mean to you? And we're using the Sanskrit word here, and we are really just looking for any responses. And it's okay if you're not 100% sure, but we'll kind of see what comes up for folks.
Brother Harish, I think you can just toggle to the responses whenever you would like.
Awesome. Thank you, Sonali. So we have intellect, intuition, wisdom, discrimination. Seems like intellect is a really big one that a lot of people are connecting with. All right, thank you everyone for your responses. Brother Sundar, I'll pass it on to you again. If you can talk a little bit about what buddhi means.
I like the dwells and the decides. Those are, just wanted to join in and share that.
Okay, so the general popular definition is, of course, the intellect, the intelligence, the ability to analyze. So data comes in from the senses, and the mind has an instinct to respond, but then the buddhi puts a brake to it and analyzes. Like if you want to cross the road and go to the ice cream shop on the other side, you want to run across the road and go for it. But then the intellect says, stop, look to your left and right, and if it's safe to cross the road, go cross the road. That's a very simplistic understanding of this term buddhi, which very popularly we say it's intelligence, and it's not wrong at all. However, what I've learned, and I'm going to paraphrase all of Swami's teachings in my mind, because I'm not going to be able to quote exactly what Swami said like I did for the mind. However, Swami used this term buddhi in many contexts, and so I'm going to throw in addition to buddhi being one Sanskrit word, I'm going to throw another word or two in Sanskrit, because all of these, it's a collective this thing. That other word is medha. Medha. So if any of you into Veda chanting, Veda chanting, then you come across this Saraswati, the Medha Suktam, where we talk about Medha Devi. Saraswati's Medha, M as in Mary, EDHA. So Medha is another term used for buddhi. Prajna is another one, which is wisdom. And therefore, these terms together, buddhi, prajna, medha, they refer to a higher faculty within us. The faculty that where the mind stops functioning, the thoughts can't go beyond a point. Now, if I were to put it in a very simple quote, which I've always found this very intriguing and very nice. It's a quote by Anonymous. It's not mine, certainly not mine. It's Anonymous. And it says, let me see if I get it right. God is more truly imagined than expressed. God is more truly imagined than expressed, but he exists more truly than is imagined. So, if we were to reach beyond our imagination, beyond our expression, the way we express it through express anything, God is one of those mysteries, right? That we want to explore and understand. And so, if we can express Him in various adjectives like love and this and truth and all of that. You want to go beyond that, you can imagine Him, but then there is an existence far beyond our imagination. How do we go there? That's where Medha and Buddhi comes. So I want you to think of these words. Some of you have already put these words. One is wisdom, the other one is intuition. I also want you to think of perception, direct perception as opposed to inception, and your ability to respond rather than react, instinct versus response. So think of these as we progress in this session. But buddhi is far more a faculty that begins to blossom within. It's a collection of wisdom and intuition and direct perception. It comes from that. So let me stop here and let's see how we progress in this and we get better ideas.
Thank you for those insights and for kind of guiding us as to what words might be helpful to think about in combination as we think about the word buddhi. And so for our next question and our last poll everywhere question, we have a definition of mind that we've kind of come to. We have a shared definition of buddhi that we've come to. And so now we're really curious about what is the difference between mind and buddhi. And this can be more of a free response. So feel free to kind of think about what does the difference mean to you for mind and buddhi.
And perhaps what indicators help you determine whether it is the mind or the buddhi for you?
We have sense versus intuition, something that's external versus something that's internal, a train and a signal, a leader and a follower, something that's unreal versus real, something that's fleeting versus permanent. I love these juxtapositions that people are offering. Buddhi is aware of the small self and large self, thoughts driven by senses versus reflections on interrelationships among other things. Buddhi is the inner essential core, mind is the vehicle. Buddhi needs to direct thoughts or mind. Buddhi is the voice of God, mind is the earpiece. Thank you for your responses, everybody, and feel free to keep putting your responses in. Brother Sundar, I'll pass it to you, kind of guiding us through what the difference between mind and buddhi is.
I love these responses. They're awesome. um, though I'm so tempted to sit and think on each of those lines that's coming up on the screen. Nevertheless, I want to share a very nice anecdote that actually introduced me into this whole idea with Swami. Because we spent time listening to Swami's discourses. There were any time there was an opportunity, Swami would be eager to share his wisdom with us. And so after a while, you just take it for granted, right? Oh, another discourse of Swami and so on. So that was always there helping us. But the greatest moments were simple conversations with him that suddenly sparked something. And this is one of those. So we were cleaning Swami's room, and then Swami directed two of us to go into another part of the mandir and get a box from there. And so we went there. It was pretty dark. We didn't know where the switch was. We opened the door, we entered in, and we were like fumbling for the switch. And suddenly we heard the familiar A sound and that's how Swami would address us, A. So immediately we froze. And then we turned around and Swami walked in. Of course, it was his room. He knew where the switch was. He put it on. And then what he said was very interesting. He said, hey, because we had small flashlights, we were trying to look for the switch, searching for it. And then he comes and puts on his light. And he just looks at our flashlights. In India, of course, you call it torchlight. And so he said, see your silly torchlights. You see in the front, then you can't see the back. You see at the back, you can't see in the front. See in my light, he said, as he put on the switch. He said, see my light, everything is seen. See in my light, he said. Na light lo chudandi. Ide me torch light lo. Ikkada chuste ikkada kanpichu. So and he walked away. It was a very simple thing, a joke, and we smiled. But something clicked in my head, and then I sat thinking about it for so long, many months, and so that paved the way to a deeper, that there is an existence, there is a light of God within us that we need to put on, rather than our little flashlights. So our intelligence, our mind, or whatever we want to term it, buddhi, manas, all of that, are like little flashlights. And I'm sure you and I can relate to it, because we look at one thing, we lose perspectives of the other things. And we look at that, then we lose sight of this. So it's either the past or the future or something here. But then in his light, he says, see in my light. And so what is that light? I don't have the answer to it, but it's a collection of all that we are talking of, this higher faculty. There is that light within us. He said, put on that switch, see. And therefore, then we saw the boxes. The box didn't come to us. In other words, the problems don't go away, but at least we see them in the right perspective. We know then which box to step over, which box to go around. And then we were able to identify which is the one that Swami wanted and gave it to him. But that was his light. So to me, this idea of mind versus buddhi, or our little faculty versus a higher faculty, is our little flashlight, what we learn and what we shine on our lives to find answers, versus is there a faculty within us that we can tap into, which becomes God's light. So I want you to leave it with that analogy. Think about it as I'm still continuing to think about that and learn from that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all of these reflections. I think what really helps for me is having stories and anecdotes, because then you relate back to those stories and you reflect on those stories a little bit more. And so hearing about the torchlight and the full room light, and even that quote about, God cannot be expressed, but he can be imagined. And he's more than we imagine. He exists more than our imagination. That was a quote that really resonated with me, just kind of being beyond words and being beyond anything that we currently perceive. And so thank you so much for sharing all of those. Now that we have a foundation, this working definition of what this mind is, what buddhi is, how do we actually start tapping into being able to turn on that full light? A small glimpse of that full light. And so now we request, Brother Sunder, you to really kind of share your experiences on how you've nurtured that relationship with your buddhi, and how you have overcome the potential fear or the doubt, the confusion that can arise especially as you're starting off this journey, where you're really kind of scrambling around with your little small torchlight, trying to figure out where to go. And so open the floor to you to lead us on that journey.
So yeah, it's been a very interesting journey. I think one of the ways I've begun to understand this higher faculty and what stops me from accessing this or tapping into this faculty has been quite a journey. One of the first things I've learned to overcome is or learn to discriminate between anytime I perceive an experience. Am I perceiving it from a preconceived idea of what it should be? In other words, has there been an inception in my mind? Have I been taught to perceive certain things a certain way, as versus what is it actually presented? It's very easy for me to color my situation with what my preconditioned ideas are and think that is real. Like, for example, we can say, oh, this is who I really am. But I need to ask myself, is it really who I am? Because who I am is just a bundle of all that information that has been fed into me from my childhood, all the advertisements I watch, everything my peers like, I like, everybody laughs at the same joke, and we kind of live on borrowed ideas of what humor is or what fear is, and dark night in a dark alley, you are alone. So what happens now? That thing is it's an inception of many kinds. And the reason I say this is when I first went to Swami, and I saw him with this afro hairstyle and his robes and all of that, he completely blew my mind as to what a holy man should be, right? Being raised in an Orthodox family and being in India and so on, the idea of a holy man always seemed to be Shirdi Baba type, a turban, a beard, poor man living living on alms. Yeah, that's like a perfect idea of what a holy man should be, not somebody going in Mercedes-Benz cars or sitting on thrones, right? And I think one of the greatest things that Swami has done, the greatest gift actually has given us, is that with his very presence, with this very image, he has helped us open that, shatter that preconceived idea of what God should look like, if you will, or what a holy man should look like or should be. It has nothing to do with external physical appearance, right? And so Swami breaks that completely with coming up with. He didn't design this. This is who he was naturally, correct? He didn't grow or style a hair for this, but it was what he was naturally. He just let it be, and that natural manifestation of this avatarhood opens up a whole new dimension. So for me, I had to relearn to perceive Swami in this light, and that was a learning. And that's what I think most of the people in today's world, especially when it comes to Sathya Sai Baba, they struggle with, because he doesn't fit into the common definition of a holy man. It seems too flashy for them. Why? Because the idea generally perceived and borrowed and kept is a holy man should be this, or a god should be this. So the devotees of Vishnu are waiting for the 10th avatar of Vishnu. How is he going to look like? What is he going to do? So everybody has a preconceived idea. Is he going to ride a horse? Is he going to have swords or whatever it is? So unless somebody fits into that definition, he's not going to be the 10th avatar of Vishnu or the second coming of Jesus Christ, right? It's the same thing. So my point there is, while those are bigger topics, may or may not apply to us on our everyday life, that's how I think if you take that and apply it in our everyday life, this is what happens to us. And on every moment, we almost perceive everything from a colored notion. We are already wearing glasses which are colored. If I'm wearing a green glass, everything is going to look green. And that's one example Swami would often quote to us, don't wear colored glasses. If you wear red, everything is going to is going to look red to you, and that's real for you. But then all you have to do is change your glasses, not paint everything else any other color, because it will still come and be seen as red. And Swami would quote that as glasses, so we could relate to it. But it's a direct borrowing from the Vedic analogies and anecdotes where they talk about a red crystal, and any light passes through a red crystal, everything else is going to seem red, so on. So the perception is very important. Swami would give us another very, very beautiful example, again quoting from the Vedic analogies, if you will, about rope versus snake. He says it's dusk, and there is not enough light, and therefore you see something coiled on your driveway or on the ground, and immediately you perceive it as a snake. And then because it's coiled, right, and it's there, and so you think, oh my god, it's a snake. And then because of that, every other experience that stems from that, like your pulse begins to raise, you begin to sweat, there is fear, you want to run away, all of that, or you get paralyzed in fear, all of that becomes real experience from a perception of that thing that is coiled there. And then somebody or you shine a flashlight on that, and then you suddenly realize, oh my god, it's only a rope and it's not a snake. How many of us have had that experience? Not necessarily of a rope versus snake, perhaps that too, but there are also situations where we imagine a lot more. Like an interview that we had to face, we were more out of our sheer imagination of what it could be or what it could lead to. We get nervous, we get palpitations, and we are all excited, or things like that, stressed out and so on. But then the actual situation may not be stressful at all. And so when the light is shown on that, you suddenly see, oh my gosh, it's not. So Swami would say, did the rope go away and the snake come? Or did the snake go away and the rope come? The snake didn't go away. The rope didn't come from somewhere, right? It is just the perception that changed. The situation is exactly the same. The perceptions are different. And therefore, when we understand this concept of mind versus buddhi, especially, or go into this element of buddhi, it's not just only intelligence. It's one small portion of that. Swami would say, he would talk about knowledge and skill. If you want to build a wall, you have the skill, the know how to build a wall, right? You put bricks on top of each other, and how to put cement and how to build it. All right. So one can build a wall. So that's like the knowledge, the skill. We learned skills. Most of our education is about skills. How to be a good surgeon, how to be a good doctor, how to be a good investor or banker, a businessman, and so on. So we get all the tools to apply, to have that knowledge and the skill and apply it. But then there is the other side. Building a wall is one thing, and the wisdom of knowing that this wall is part of a church, and therefore the joy that comes that I'm building something as part of a house of prayer, rather than just focusing on I'm building a wall and I know how to build a wall, but I am part of something much bigger. That is, Swami would say, that is wisdom. And to me, I saw that in Swami almost every day, in every aspect. He chose wisdom as his response versus how to do. Like, I don't think I saw Swami solve a very, very advanced math problem, correct? He might have to somebody else. I was in commerce. I never had that opportunity to present a math problem to Swami, so I'm not seeing him do that. And that really that's not the point at all here. Whether he's able to, if he's God, why can't he solve the most complex math problem? It's not like that. It's more about the wisdom behind the math problem. Behind the skills, if you will. A very simple thing. There was a family who wanted to donate a large piece of property to Swami. Now, what would you and I do if we were running an ashram? Put yourself in a shoe, just like that, just for a few seconds, if you will. Not in Swami's shoes, but in your own shoes. Imagine you're running a non-profit, you're running an ashram, and some family comes and says, "You're doing such a fantastic job. Here, we have these 50 or 100 acres of land for you to build an ashram." Now look at that. How would you react? You say, "Oh my God, this is amazing. Thank you so much for your selfless offer." Correct? But Swami, I was a witness to this. So Swami went back and forth with them for a few weeks, and then Swami refused to take that. And then he explained to me and another boy why. Not explained as much as kind of enlightened us. He said, "You have seen Swami interacting, right? Swami said no to this." Then we just looked at Swami, and I couldn't believe, like, why would Swami refuse that? Because knowing that, in ashram, every input or every donation mattered for his mission or for his purpose. Swami said, no, he has such a large family. They have a joint family. I don't want to take, they will give it. This family gives it now. There are other parts of the family who will tomorrow won't like it, and it bring a bad reputation to Swami. I don't want all that. I want their family to be united. I don't want to be the cause to break that family. Something like that. I'm just paraphrasing Swami's words. But then, to me, I as a young boy, I still didn't get it at that point. But over the years, I begin to appreciate how much more wisdom you need to guide that impulse of accepting or getting obliged to somebody, especially in that context, right? But a wisdom, actually, you refuse the best opportunities in your life, such as the one Swami did. But did he deny himself that, or did he open himself to a much greater energy? That's a question we need to look at. And looking at Swami's, what he achieved, was he opened himself to a much greater opportunity by applying that wisdom. To me, that wisdom is very important. It's not about skills. It's not about, for example, some of you, there might be many of you here who are very talented. Let's say singing, for example. You sing bhajans, some of you can sing amazingly, you play harmoniums very well, and all of that, right? The ability to sing a bhajan very beautifully, with all the turnings and ragas, and your friends go, "Wow, that is an amazing singing," and all of that, right? So you have that. That's knowledge, that's skill, it's a talent. But the wisdom is, when do you sing this bhajan? For example, everybody's singing fast bhajans, and oh, that's great energy. And you have this amazing skill to sing a very slow bhajan, if you will. And then you said, all right, it's time for me, or my chance comes. I sit in front of my mic and I have a huge audience, so I'm going to sing my favorite bhajan. And you plant in really slow bhajan. You may sing it very well, but are you wise to put it right in the middle of a fast energy where everybody is like highly charged, and now you're giving them a musical demonstration, if you will? So the application of your skill comes with wisdom, and that wisdom is guided. That's where we tap into this light of God. This Swami said, "See in my light." Sometimes you may have the best cards if you're playing cards. Please don't play cards. It's a useless waste of time, I think. But that's just strictly my opinion. But then you're playing cards. Sometimes you may have the best cards in your hand, and you can easily win. But sometimes it is wise to just fold it and let somebody else who needs that at that moment, a little push, let them win it. It's okay to lose a battle once in a while. So there's another quote which I have read many years ago. And these kind of things I kind of entertain in my mind, so I don't forget them. A wise man knows to. A genius knows how to win an argument. A wise man knows how to avoid one. So something like that. Or a wise man knows how to win an argument. A genius knows how to avoid one. The idea is it's not always about winning. Sometimes you just have to avoid that because the wisdom prevails. And I saw that in Swami at many stages. Here is another one where wisdom prevailed. So here is the editor of Hindu. The Hindu is the national newspaper, and at that time, the chief editor of the Hindu was Swami's devotee, Mr. V.K. Narasimhan. So I was privy to this conversation. He tells Swami, there is a lot of people who are writing or talking some things against you. So if you allow me, every day I will put a small column in the newspaper about your teachings. So let us respond to them like that. Almost immediately, Swami said, "Have you seen Sai Gita?" Uh, Sai Gita is Swami's elephant. And so both of us didn't understand where Swami was going. Of course, I was just listening to this conversation. I have an idea where Swami was going with it. He said, Sai Gita, when she comes all the way in the procession from the shed from Gokulam, that was where she was at that time, where she would walk all the way to Swami's ashram. When she comes, there are so many street dogs that bark at her. Do you think she stops at every street dog and explains who she is, how big she is, and she can just throw them off the street? She doesn't care. She just walks because she knows who she is. And Swami paused and he said, these people who are street dogs, who want to bark, they are poor. They feel insecure. They want to do adi papam wali karma. Swami said, it's their karma, poor things. Let them do what they have to do. Why do we have to respond to every single comment somebody else makes? That is not how I do it. To me, that really once again blew my mind, because I'm like, wow. Here is another opportunity Swami apparently gave away because he had an opportunity to get a free space in the newspaper, to put himself out there, to let people know what he is doing. Especially, I'm talking this, especially in today's term, and with social networking and media, the necessity to constantly blog and put these short videos and to put yourself out there and let people know you're there. All of that. We need to ask us, and I'm not saying these are all bad at all. Ask yourself, am I doing it because I'm insecure? I just want somebody to keep constantly telling me, oh, that's a great video. Oh, you look so good. Or, oh my God, your talent is amazing. Is that why you're putting it? Or are you truly burning with a desire to share a lovely thought and you want to put that? But does that happen every day? It doesn't have to, right? So that's the point. The point is wisdom guiding our actions? Or is it just the skill that I want to put out there? So you can consider this also in terms of reaction versus response. A mind wants to react quickly because it's impulsive, it's instinctive. It knows what to do. I got the data, I've analyzed it. All right, this is what I want to do. But then there is a response. Both are important. There are times you have to react when it comes to life-saving situations, or quick decisions have to be taken. We have to react, and so that's not wrong. But if every time it's only reaction and there's no room for response, then we are missing something. Are we guided by a greater faculty, a wiser faculty that will help us take decisions? That's what I saw in Swami. The ability to refuse the little things because there was a greater wisdom that was governing his principle. That is what I think Swami, when he talks about let values be your guiding principles in life, I think that is something profound. And there's not simply an intellectual exercise for me now. It's real. So there's somebody had asked me a question earlier in this group. When you listen to this voice of God and you think of the consequences, it's so difficult and it's sometimes scary to take those steps. It is. It is scary to take the steps. One thing is listening to the voice of God, and one thing is seeing things in Swami's light, if you will. The next thing is, the challenge is to follow that light, to take action in that light. And so it's not easy. But then why does it become difficult? Why does it become scaring? That's what we need to analyze. Just the scare, the fear, the doubt. These are the enemies to intuition. Doubt is one big enemy to intuition. Fear is one big enemy for this faculty of intuition. Most of them are unfounded. If you truly see things in the light of God, then it's the easiest thing is just to then blindly follow that, because now there is light. I know the path. Just go for it. When we consider the consequences, that was the part of the question that was shared with me by Padma Shri before this workshop, which think of the consequences, it's scary. That thinking of consequences is you're weighing the pros and cons, which is the cautionary part of us weighs the pros and cons. And then what happens is we wait for the ducks to get aligned first before taking a project or before doing something, right? But with Swami, I didn't see that. And I'm still working on that. Sometimes it's not necessary for all the pros and cons to be exactly aligned and say, all right, now that I weighed the pros and cons, let me go with this. That's where the intelligence comes in. That's where the knowledge and skills coming. The higher intuitive guidance has already told you, go with it, go there. Just follow that voice if that truly brings peace to you. One of the greatest gauge for me to understand Swami's voice is that once I hear that brings peace. It's concrete. I cannot deny that voice. And I'll leave that and leave this last anecdote with you, because this is one of the most powerful things. I leave you all to think about this. And think about this beyond this workshop as I do. Once we were with Swami and one of the boys asked, Swami, how do we know your voice versus the voice of the mind? How do we know, Swami? We are so confused. How do we know when to listen to your voice? Isn't that anybody's question? So that was a question we asked. Again, Swami very beautifully and powerfully responded. He said, when you are in doubt, it is not my voice. When you hear my voice, there will be no doubt. Just think about that. So beautiful. When you're in doubt, it is not my voice. When you hear my voice, there will be no doubt. So there are moments, and this is so important for us, because there are moments you know that there is somebody talking to you. You know that there is a right way to do it. We know it without doubt. And then, of course, when we start analyzing it too much, then we add on too much static around it. But there is a knowing. You and I have experienced this, right? It's beyond the gut feeling and all of that. It's much more than that. It's much more than an intuition that comes from the subconscious. This is a higher faculty suddenly opening up and tells you that this is it. That, to me, that was my guiding principle. At that time, I didn't know that. And to this day, that is my relation with Swami. I know there is a part of me that know who Swami is. And that can never change. That knowing can never go away, no matter what happens in my life, no matter who tells me what or what. All of that doesn't affect that knowing, right? That knowing is the God's voice. So think about that. And I'll leave you with that as we progress in this workshop.
Such beautiful thoughts and reflections, brother. There's a lot for us to unpack, and luckily we will have a chance to do that in groups. And so I'll just actually quickly transition ourselves to the next activity, where we will be splitting up into breakout rooms. Brother Harish will be sending us into groups of roughly 3 to 5 folks, and we will have about 10 minutes to look at a set of questions. Brother Harish will share if you want to share the page right now, and we'll also send the link as well with the questions, for us to now take all of these wonderful food for thought and start to reflect, where are we? What is our understanding of that experience? And how can we start to connect deeper to that voice and hear that voice in the silence? And just one quick note, we are requesting that everyone put together a 2-sentence summary of your conversation. And so if you could kindly pick one volunteer or scribe to really put that 2-sentence summary together. And then when we come back into this main Zoom room, paste it so that all of us can see the wonderful reflections that are arising as we sit deeper into the thoughts that Brother Sunder so kindly and lovingly shared. So with that, Brother Harish, can we break out into breakout rooms?
Yeah, thank you all for participating and joining these breakout rooms. If folks feel comfortable, if you can add in the 2-sentence summary into the chat, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, maybe just some live reactions from a couple breakout rooms that I was in, and curious to hear your thoughts also, Cypria. But did hear, a lot of conversation around sometimes, the logic, you're rationalizing, you're like Brother Sundar said, weighing the pros and cons, and you're like, no, it has to be this choice, and yet you feel pulled for some reason, whether it be a voice that has spoken to you, or just this nagging feeling where the knowing is there, of perhaps the choice that may not make the most sense, that you rationalized yourself out of, as being the path that you actually want to take, and you believe your intuition is guiding you to take. And then it's about having the courage to follow through with that push that is very naturally coming. So, sister, curious on your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I love that emphasis on the courage to continue forward. And I know Brother Sundar mentioned this earlier too, with the kind of story of Sagita and the street dogs, of like feeling so like confident and knowing in yourself and knowing in higher consciousness and divinity that you continue to move forward. And that is that faith that helps you kind of push forward in these moments. And I think we had a really beautiful story in the group breakout room that I was in. Someone shared about like how that faith really helped them make an important decision in spite of other people's maybe thoughts or suggestions about a scenario.
Wonderful.
I think as people feel comfortable, they can kind of keep putting in comments in the chat about their summary. I'm going to actually pull it back to the conversation with Brother Sundar now, and maybe we can talk a little bit more about, with these, like, what are the practices that maybe you've implemented to kind of strengthen that relationship, to have that confidence in the buddhi and to have that kind of conviction in continuing forward, and if you have any, practices that would be helpful to strengthen that relationship.
Before I go there, I just thought of one more very beautiful anecdote with Swami, and just quickly share that with you all. So this was the 65th birthday, and I had the privilege of working with Swami for more than a month on a play. He wanted more than 100 boys. The whole play was on unity. Unity is divinity, and he was so passionate about all of that. So there's so many lessons in that. I can't even begin to speak. But there was one scene where there are professors and people who have knowledge versus wisdom. That knowledge versus wisdom thing. We were talking and discussing with Swami, and Swami pulled out a letter. And then the backside of the letter was like this. So he just said, first he showed us this thing, and he said, okay, what is this? It's a blank page. I said, all right. Then he kept it on his lap. Then he drew something on it. Took a while to do that. Then he said, what do you all see here? So there are about 6-7 of us, okay? He shows like this. He said, what do you all see here? So we are looking at it, like you all are perhaps looking at it now. And then we came up with all the weirdest possible answers. Somebody said, Swami, is that an Om? I said, Swami, it's a universe. Somebody said something else, Lingam, and so on. And Swami was just smiling. He just kept on showing to each one, what do you see? What do you see? What do you see? And then once we finished, Swami said, is that all you saw? And we just didn't know what else was this, right? What else is that little thing? Then Swami held it again like this, and he said, none of you all said, I see a white paper. Because what I'm holding, such a big white paper and such a small tiny dot, but all of your eyes only went on that tiny dot, and you're wondering what that tiny dot is. You could have just said white paper. White paper enduku chudledu? Inta white తెల్లగా ఉంది, in Telugu, ఇంత తెల్లగా ఉంది, అదే చూడలేదు. నల్లగా ఒక్క డాట్ అయితే చూసారు మీరు. నల్లగా మీన్స్ one black dot you saw and you didn't see all the white behind. None of us saw this white, because Swami says, what do you see? We are looking for. That's my point. That's why intuition doesn't work for us, because in our everyday life we suddenly focus on not the bigger thing that's there, very evident to us. The white is so much evident, we miss that because we are trained our brains to focus on the small things. Something for you to think about. This is one of my guiding sessions with Swami, that I use it every time I'm tempted to analyze or judge or perceive a situation. I think of, what is it that I'm missing? There's something I'm missing. There's the bigger picture I'm missing. So we have to keep that bigger picture in view, and that is something we saw so much in Swami. So while I talked about how Swami apparently let go of good opportunities because wisdom guided him, I don't want you all to think you always have to let go of good opportunities because there's something wise in you. There was also the other side where he seemed to be unwise in his judgment, but then he took that decision and it worked. And that, I just want to put that before I come to a technique or what I do. And that was the vice chancellors and universities. Just 2 years had passed, the college had been formed, and Swami said, we want to make it into a university. What happens to make a university? And the elders there told him, Swami, we need laboratory instruments, we need 2 or 3 more colleges to be in place. And then Swami said, okay, then what happens? Then he says, Swami, there is a vice chancellor's commission, 26, 27 people, the most educated wise men of the country. They will come, they will inspect the premises, and they will give the certificate of being a university, grant the university, if you will. So it's called the University Grants Commission. They will come. Swami immediately jumped and said, okay, then call them. And I was sitting at Swami's feet, just pressing and listening to this conversation. I thought Swami didn't understand what they said, and even they cleared their throat and very respectfully repeated, no, Swami, you didn't perhaps missed what we said earlier. You need all these ducks to be aligned. They listed things that needed to be in place before somebody even comes to grant university. But Swami said, no, I got all that, just call them. So here is again wisdom guiding you to take a step boldly and go forward, even though you don't seem to have anything lined up to achieve that. And Swami got the university right at the end of the day. Just straightforward. He called them, he gave them his vision. He said vision and told him what he wants to be done, I guess. But then he got it. So I just want you all to keep in mind, it's not always letting go of some opportunities, thinking wisdom grants. Sometimes wisdom pushes you in the right direction, and you just have to go with it. Trust that quote unquote intuition, if you will. One of the things that I'm coming really down to a very simple technique. One of the simple to understand, but it's very intriguing and interesting to practice, is when you meditate on subtle things. Meditate on subtle things. But then you're able to perceive things which are not immediately relevant, like this white paper, this white. We didn't see this because, this is not very subtle, but then it's, if you get what I mean, the bigger picture, if you will, the lateral thinking versus logical thinking. Logical thinking analyzes, lateral thinking sees them all in the light and then decides how they sees the puzzle. And so meditation, contemplation, becoming mindful of things that are subtle. For example, space. You think of space in right now in between you and your computer screen or your camera, your phone screen, your tablet screen. Think of the space. Meditate on the space. What's going on in that space? What kind of air, what kind of smell is in that space? Things like that. When you listen to and I found this very, very beautiful because, like, for example, I listen to Swami's voice and not necessarily pay attention to what he's saying, but simply listen to the tone, his nasal tone. While he's singing, there's a little bit of nasal tone, right? So I just listen to that tone, the vibration, the sound of that voice. Um, it doesn't have to make meaning at all. You just become mindful of those. Think of what else you could think of, meditate upon, sound vibrations, the sound of the AC. You become more and more aware of subtle things around you. That's number one. Number two is just mindful sitting, where you sit and mindfully pay attention to all the sensory inputs that come in without being tempted to judge them as good or bad. So, for example, right now where you are, you're perhaps your ears are listening to my voice, your nose is perhaps getting some aroma around you from your room. You're sitting on a chair, so your skin is getting information from the sofa that you're sitting on, your arms are getting some information. So pay attention to sensory inputs without necessarily jumping into any kind of, oh my gosh, I love this, oh, I don't like that. It really helps. That's the second one I've really found very, very helpful in training the brain or the mind, if you will, to tune into something higher. And then the mind has to stop then and give up its faculty of reasoning and analyzing and thinking. And then faith takes over, trust takes over. That faith and trust is very, very foreign to the mind. And we have to learn that by training the mind to let go after a point. So you have all the colors on the palette and you know how to do a painting, but then after a point, you just let the talent within you guide you to come up with a painting. The mind cannot analyze logically every single step. A painting or a work of art or a poem, all of this, you have to break rules of grammar to write poetry, right? Things like that. So think of those. Think of writing poems. Honestly, if you don't write songs, if you can write songs, write songs. Pay attention to the words that form, the ideas that form into words, and write. That kind of intuitive guidance, you're training yourself to guide to let intuition guide you. Don't wait for a difficult situation in life to suddenly think of how can I be guided intuitively. You can't learn swimming when you're drowning, correct? So don't wait for some very difficult situation and say, I want to listen to the voice of God to guide me. It becomes very difficult. So when everything is going fine, just try out these little experiments and you will train your mind to see the subtle messages. Swami speaks to us in a million ways every day through nature, because his consciousness is one with nature. It's not different from it at all. So he speaks to us through the breeze. He embraces us, if you will. He caresses us. He cajoles us with the breeze that caresses your skin. He entertains you with the divine scenery that unfolds at sunrise and sunset. That's who Swami really is. Especially now that his form is no more, I relate to Swami in a much larger way, and it's easier now that I don't have to think of Swami in Puttaparthi or Brindavan, but this is the Sai that who manifested in a human form, and that helps me to release my limited idea of who I think God is or how it should be to God at every moment. And then what happens is you begin to listen, and then you understand that you're never alone. There is always guidance around our lives. There's a perfect orchestration. You begin to understand the orchestration in your life, and you begin to step in time with that divine orchestration, and you begin to enjoy this dance, this rhythm, this role, if you will, that you play in life. So if it really wants to come down to a technique that you want to take home at the end of this, is begin to think about subtle things. Begin to become, not think, but be mindful of the subtle things that happen that are not very evident to the senses. That's why I said space. It's very difficult to meditate on space, but become mindfully aware. of the space between you and another person, the space between you and the chair, the space between furniture. Just become aware of the space, the silence between the sounds. Think of that gap, or the whiteness around this black dot. When something is very evident, look for something that is not as evident, and then compare both, and then you will be able to see a much bigger picture, and hopefully that will help you and me in taking decisions and going with it. I wouldn't say right or wrong decisions, because no decision is fully right, no decision is fully wrong. Every decision opens and paves way to learning, and we learn because if we weigh the consequences of every action, for example, if you are one if you a 1.5-year-old child, you would let them know that, hey, you can go walking, but you're going to fall a million times. Okay, be careful, you're going to fall. Then the child, if luckily the child doesn't have that kind of analysis, the capability to analyze. Otherwise, it'll say, oh my God, I'm going to fall 100 times. No, I rather not walk. And so he never learned walking. So don't worry about falling down, even if it means falling down 10 or 20 times. The success lies in the ability to get up and say, all right, let me proceed or change direction or modify. So take a decision, go with it. And then if necessary, keep modifying the decision and learn from the mistakes that you make in that decision, learn from it, and keep developing and working on it. So there is no such thing as a completely wrong decision, or there is no such thing as a completely right decision where you took a decision and everything works fine and everything is fine and dandy, as they say, the rest of your life. It doesn't work like that. I just want to leave you with one last there's so many quotes instance of Swami I just wrote in this 10 minutes, but I'm not going to be able to share all of that. But here is that another wisdom that guides things which we can't see, but how Swami saw something that everybody else didn't see is vision. Vision guided him. It's not goals. He didn't have goals. I shouldn't say he did or he didn't, but that's how I perceived it. He didn't set out goals to him. It was a vision that manifested for him. The vision was to provide water to the villagers. The vision was to provide free education. And what manifested was a college. His goal was not to start 2-3 colleges. And his goal was not to start a university. His vision was to provide free education. His vision was to provide free medicine, not to start hospitals. So think of vision versus goals. When Swami took us to a home of a very old devotee in Chennai, when 3 of us went with him, Swami had lunch with her, and Swami told her, tell your stories to these boys. And she told many things, most of which I've forgotten, but there's one thing that stayed with me. She told about how, as a young boy, Swami would come and stay with them and stay up till late night, do satsangs, and then ask for coffee and this and that. And those are the nice things. But then she said that so many times we told Swami, as older women, as the mothers for this little Sathya who would come to spread his mission, they told Swami that, please Swami, if you want to start your ashram, in Chennai we have people in the British government, we can talk to them, we can get you a nice land here, and you can start whatever you want here. You'll get so many devotees that you're looking for, where you're coming all the way from that little village Puttaparthi, and we cannot come there. We cannot come every time. Sometimes it gets flooded, we don't have proper vehicles to go. But Swami said, no, I have to set it up there. It has to be set up there. So think of that. There's absolutely, logically, if you see, everything is against the rules. There are no roads leading to Puttaparthi. Today there are highways, train stations, and there were no devotees there. There were no places to stay there. So logically speaking, if you really were to analyze location for an ashram, that was the last thing that would have crossed my mind. At least I can speak for myself. But what is it that Swami held on to that makes today Puttaparthi is the spiritual capital, if you will, a holy place? It's got all the facilities that one can ever think of. It was the vision of one person, one individual who stuck to that vision. Was the path to it easy? I don't think so. I think Swami worked very hard in making that happen. So, so was his decision the right one? It was, because he stuck to it. He worked with faith that this is going to manifest. This is what it is. This has to be the place. And therefore, if you and I have to learn something from that, sometimes logically things don't make sense at all. But then, if your heart guides you, if there's a higher faculty that opens and says this is right for you, just go with it with faith. And I'm sure Swami will guide you and help you achieve whatever it is that you step out to achieve. I have no doubt about that. So I wish you all the very best in your lives. And this being a holy period of Navratri, a very beautiful time to reflect on these topics. So kudos to all of you for having come up with such a wonderful topic. Open your heart and see the invisible and listen to that voice of God that speaks to us in silence. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram. Thank you so much, Brother Sunder, for your reflections, your insights, for sharing your experiences. There have been so many takeaways from this session, and thank you to everyone who participated and engaged with us so beautifully and created this collective space together. We were able to talk about, come to a shared definition of mind, come to a shared definition of buddhi, really understand the differences between the two. Try to I feel like we got a lot of insight about how perception is so powerful, and wisdom of knowing when to act and how to act. And it's not just about having the skill, but it's also about having the courage to go with to follow your highest values, to follow what's true in your heart. And I absolutely loved hearing people's stories, even in the breakout rooms, to hear about their own personal experiences of how they're able to tap into that faith with so much courage. And Brother Sundar, thank you for sharing these practices with us and really encouraging us to take that leap forward without any fear of failure, because it's not a rejection, it's just a redirection, right? We will find our way to wherever we need to go. If you're still open to it, I know we had maybe talked about ending with the silent reflective practice. If you're open to it, maybe we can kind of end together with that reflective practice, and kind of come to a close that way. I think my only one announcement is that stay tuned for the next episode. I think we'll have one in October, and we'll kind of continue to understand more about this buddhi and uncovering the divine intuition that exists within us, even in this moment. I don't know, Sonali, if you have any other thoughts. Okay, if you're comfortable, Brother Sundar, if we can guide us through a reflective practice to come to a close. Thank you again.
So let's sit comfortably wherever you are, in your chair or on your bed, wherever you are comfortably. Close your eyes and mindfully become aware of the present moment. Allow your senses to perceive, to receive information. Don't look for it. Simply open the doors of your senses. Other than my voice, what else do you hear? What are the various frequencies of sounds that are reaching your ears right now? Shift your awareness to the sense of smell. Smell and memory are directly linked. There are smells that can ground you, there are smells that can immediately awaken your consciousness. You may not experience them now, but just keep that in mind. Think of the skin, sense of touch. What information is it giving you? What is the temperature in the room? The sense of taste. If you have been eating something or munching something or drinking something, is that taste lingering in your mouth? Simply become aware. Now expand. Think of your room as part of your home. Think of your home, your apartment as part of a bigger community. Think of that community as part of a city, the city as part of that state, the state as that part of the country as part of the continent as part of this beautiful planet. And even go beyond the planet as part of the galaxy. And know in your heart that you are in the right place at the right time. You've chosen a perfect life, a perfect role. Enjoy this game of life and play it with confidence, knowing that God, who orchestrated this divine universe, will certainly orchestrate your life. Find peace and security in that knowledge. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.